Africa has maintained an average rate of 5% growth in recent years, and many countries are achieving steady economic development. To achieve further economic development, Africa needs to develop not only on a national level, but also on a regional level. JICA implements projects in line with African initiatives toward cross-border regional infrastructure development. The goal for Africa now is regional infrastructure development that integrates points, lines, and areas. Compared to other continents, landlocked countries in Africa cover a vast area and have a huge population. At 28.5%, the surface area of landlocked countries in Africa is nearly twice that of Asia. The population of Africans living in landlocked countries is more than 6 times that of landlocked countries in Asia, at 24.4% compared to 3.7%. Exporting and importing goods for landlocked countries is expensive and has a high opportunity cost due to the time and cost required for transportation. In comparison with other continents, there is a relatively low level of trade within Africa. Doubling regional trade within 10 years will serve as the engine for development. To achieve this, non-tariff barriers must be removed with the efforts of African countries. In other words, an approach that takes on a whole region, not just individual countries, is required in order to stimulate economic improvements and industry growth based on infrastructure development. In view of this, regional economic communities, RECs, in Africa have been working towards the important goal of regional economic integration. The African Union, AU, together with other partners, developed the Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, which specifies an infrastructure strategy for each regional economic community running until 2040. The program highlights key priorities for the infrastructure development of each country or region. JICA currently has 34 offices throughout Africa that work together with countries. While emphasizing African ownership in terms of PIDA and the infrastructure development strategy of each regional economic community, JICA is also providing regional infrastructure cooperation. JICA has a twofold definition of regional infrastructure. Hard infrastructure covers national border facilities, corridors, bridges, tunnels, pipelines, and the establishment of power plants across multiple countries. Soft infrastructure transfers techniques of infrastructure maintenance technology, development of customs ability, provision of technology, legislative systems, procedures, and system harmony and establishment. JICA assistance toward infrastructure development is a strategic combination of both hard and soft infrastructure types. Let's take a look at East Africa. Regional integration is progressing in the East African Community, EAC, which comprises 5 countries: Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Burundi, and Rwanda. The Northern Corridor covers East African Community countries and extends from Mombasa Port in Kenya to Uganda and connects Rwanda and Burundi. The Central Corridor also extends into Rwanda and Burundi from Dar es Salaam Port in Tanzania. These are the 2 major corridors in the EAC region. The corridors are lifelines for the landlocked countries of Uganda, Rwanda, and Burundi, through which exports and imports to and from these countries are transported. JICA is working together with EAC and the government of each country to facilitate tradings in the northern and central corridors. Let's take a look at the northern corridor next. Mombasa Port in Kenya is the gateway to the northern corridor. In this area, JICA has been providing continuous and intensive support ever since the construction of Mombasa Airport in 1973. Currently, JICA is involved in expanding Mombasa Port container terminal in order to reduce cargo or goods waiting time. Project completion is expected in 2015, which will increase container handling capacity from the current 450,000 TEU to 1.2 million TEU. Following the northern corridor as it goes north from Mombasa, the next bottleneck for mobility is the traffic in the city of Nairobi. JICA is supporting bypass construction to connect unfinished sections, missing links, in order to facilitate smooth traffic flow. Continuing along the northern corridor to the border of Kenya and Uganda, JICA is working at the Malaba Border to establish one-stop border post, OSBP. An OSBP is established by two countries as a jointly managed area so that the various import-export procedures required by each country are executed in one location, which is faster and smoother for movement. This has reduced the waiting time for trucks at Malaba from 48 hours to an average of 6 hours or less. In other borders in East Africa, including the Namanga border and the Rusumo border, JICA is cooperating toward the provision of OSBP laws and improving customs abilities in conjunction with the East African community. Further along the northern corridor, JICA is supporting construction of Jinja Bridge, which crosses the Nile River in Uganda. Along the Nile Corridor, a spur of the northern corridor, JICA is assisting in national reconstruction by supporting the construction of Atiak-Nimule Road and river ports in South Sudan. Clearly, JICA is contributing in various ways toward facilitating trade in the entire northern corridor. The sustained positive economic growth in East Africa countries calls for generation of more affordable, stable electricity in the region. The goal to achieve a stable electricity supply can be reached through electric power development and the construction of power pools. When comparing power generation, it's clear that Uganda has the potential to export, whereas Kenya will need to import power in the future. Today's electricity power supply is unstable because more than half of the generation capacity is from hydropower, which is affected by periods of dry weather, including climate change. JICA therefore supports rapid expansion of the Olkaria geothermal power plant in Kenya, which utilizes the geothermal resources of the Great Rift Valley. As one of the leading geothermal developments in Africa, Kenya is acquiring technology that will later be exported for adoption to other countries. In addition to geothermal power, JICA is proactively encouraging the development of all environmentally friendly renewable energy sources such as solar and biomass. In Egypt, wind is being utilized at the Zafarana Desert Wind Farm, located 220 kilometers south of Cairo, the capital city. JICA supported the development of the wind farm in 2003, which now boasts 142 wind turbines with a combined output of 120 megawatts. This capacity is twice as much as the output of Japan's largest wind farm at Cape Soya. A vital part of JICA regional infrastructure cooperation is the construction of power plants and power transmission lines, which links the stable supply of electricity in the regional power pool for stable industry growth and economic growth. In addition to cooperating toward easing movement in southern Africa, as is the case in the northern corridor, JICA is supporting comprehensive developments along the corridors in fields of agriculture, natural resources, water, and education. Nacala Corridor is one of the key corridors in southern Africa, running with a railroad and a highway starting at Nacala Port in Mozambique, through Nampula and Niassa states, and terminates in Malawi. Nacala is a deep-water harbor. In order to fulfill its potential as an international gateway, Japan has made public-private plans for harbor development. JICA is also cooperating on the provision of inland highways at Nacala Port. In Malawi, Mangochi Bridge has been built in order to facilitate movement and contribute to improved living standards for local villagers. A special aspect of JICA infrastructure cooperation in Nacala Corridor includes developing the surrounding areas in addition to development of the corridor itself. For example, there is a lot of excitement about the potential for soil improvement and soybean cultivation in Nacala, as was previously achieved in Cerrado, Brazil, largely as a result of funding and technical contributions from Japan. The comprehensive development of the Nacala Corridor includes developments in the surrounding area and other sectors, such as agriculture development programs and agricultural experiment stations, teacher training schools, and healthcare provider training schools. In Nacala Corridor, developments that started in the line of the corridor itself are reaching the area of the surrounding region. One of JICA's earliest infrastructure development projects in Central Africa was the construction of the Matadi Bridge in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which took 10 years to complete starting in 1974. As the only suspension bridge that joins both sides of the Congo River, the Matadi Bridge has facilitated movement of goods and people and played an important economic and social function in the area. Today, almost 30 years since it was completed, the Matadi Bridge is undergoing an operation and maintenance project. This displays two particular aspects of JICA infrastructure cooperation. The first aspect is that JICA infrastructure cooperation combines the best of Japanese technology for construction that lasts a long time. The second feature is that JICA provides operations and maintenance technology for technical cooperation and training, which results in even greater durability. Regional infrastructure development in West Africa. JICA is promoting regional development from its 4 base locations in Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Nigeria. Senegal and Nigeria are serving as growth poles for the regional economy and are contributing to the maintenance and development of industry standards. JICA focuses on assistance in West African corridors connecting the inland region with the coastal regions of Abidjan, Accra, Lomé, Cotonou, and Lagos. The objectives are to strengthen synergies between coastal development and inland potential and to facilitate regional trade.
JICA has done very well for Ghana, and we are most grateful. Yes, and I do know that Africa, I've traveled to a number of places. I've traveled to Gambia and some other countries. I've traveled to Guinea and heard them about JICA facilities over there, and Mauritania, and some of these areas with fishing facilities and what have you.
JICA will continue to support city development in line with the West Africa Metropolitan Master Plan.
Nous travaillons avec une équipe qui est composée de consultants japonais en vue d'élaborer ensemble tout ceci demande de la qualité du peuple japonais avec qui nous apprenons chaque jour, surtout la ponctualité.
The West Africa region is now working toward peace and stability and further economic and social development by means of regional economic integration. In support of these initiatives, JICA is actively promoting future infrastructure development in West Africa. As cooperation extends from points to lines to areas with the goal of intercontinental trade and regional economic stimulation, JICA will keep working together with Africa on regional infrastructure development.
Since 1970s, JICA has been contributing to infrastructure development to promote socio-economic development in Africa. Africa sees its dynamic growth at over 5% annually in the first decade of this century. To continue this sustainable growth, Africa needs a significant amount of investment in various infrastructure sectors such as power, transport, and ICT, information and communication technology. Moreover, it is essential for African countries to promote regional integration to boost their economic growth. For these objectives, JICA will reinforce its cooperation not only for hard infrastructure, but also for soft infrastructure, including, among other things, designing comprehensive master plans and institutions such as one-stop border post. While respecting Africa's ownership, JICA is strongly committed to supporting the efforts of African people to achieve their inclusive and dynamic development.